right at the forefront, right at the top. I was taking a look at the Times of India copy. It says Prime Minister visit to focus on boosting India-US defense industrial ties. We earlier saw that the Prime Minister, he'd emplaned for New York this very morning, tweeting out that United States, here I come. So much that's happening. What is? You've got the drone deal, some 31 Predator drones of top-notch quality. They're going to cost us $3 billion, something that the Defense Acquisition Council had given a green light to. The jet engine deal for our Make in India push. I mean, the Tejas Mark II planes are finally going to get the F414 General Electric engine. That's something that is market standard at this point in time. So much that's on the cards. What are you expecting? What are you hoping for? Of course, there's going to be great PR, but at the same time, the diaspora is going to be happy. I saw people raising placards saying the 2023 phenomenon, the two top global leaders that we need right now are Biden and Modi.
Some of the placards, as you were saying, I was taking a look at those placards. So this is what one of the placards says. It says the United States plus India alliance, a new hope for the 21st century. So, the diaspora in the United States, and we have a very good and powerful diaspora in the United States. People in the United States tend to look at them as success stories because, there is that myth about a lot of doctors, engineers, software professionals, healthcare professionals, all of them are coming from this particular ethnic group, and there have been various studies also on them. But anyway, we're talking about how the United States and India are probably going to reset the kind of relationship they have. Now, Kabir, let it be known, it has been always India's wisdom to ensure that it's a multipolar world. All right. So we are now having a deeper engagement with the United States after proving to them that our relationship will always be multipolar. We are not going closer to US at the cost of someone. So that is a position that we have always taken. And we have always ensured that this kind of a position is in fact held as well when it comes to the issue about our geopolitical realities as well. So when Prime Minister Modi goes to the United States, some of the factors that we need to in fact see is the economic factor, how much of the so-called alternative supply chain phenomena that the US is looking at, especially after COVID. They did see that China seemed to have dominated the entire supply chain, especially when it comes to the issue about semiconductors. So we are going to in fact see as to how much of that is going to be at play when it comes to this. And another critical phase in which we are looking at is what about India's role when it comes to collaborative defense technologies. Remember, Kabir, yesterday I told you that there was something called dual-use technology, which we faced sanctions when we conducted the nuclear weapons tests in the 90s. Now, after that, the US has been very careful in trying to give the kind of technology that we have been seeking, especially when it comes to high-end technology. And when we are looking at the high-end technology, we are talking about these technologies that could result in what we call as, dual use in defense issues as well as nuclear issues. So that kind of technology was, in fact, completely denied to us, and because it was denied to us, we had become very cautious with our relationship, and we always ensured that our relationships are multifold. Now, when we are talking about this jet engine, which is one of the most critical aspect of this
it is going to be the high point.
And it's going to be one of the high points because we are talking about Predator Reaper, and probably we are also looking at collaborations between Indian firms and defense firms in the US. We could become the spare part manufacturer of US defense items in this country. All right, and that would open up a whole new industry because the US will be technically outsourcing spare parts productions of their defense systems, probably existing defense systems like F-16s and other things, because already they are looking at that possibility. F-16 is a legacy aircraft, but it's still in use by various air forces in the world. So it becomes a huge lucrative market. Now, when it comes to our technology, look at this is how our foreign policy is also defined. When we talk about technology transfer, TOT, it is being touted that 80% of the GE 414 engine technology could be shared with us. All right. That is something that we have to look at. So
just 80% of the
as
technologies
of now, and
that are going
later
to be
probably
shared.
it could even reach 100%. But there are clauses that are there in it.
Is 80% good enough, Varghese?
I mean, it is great enough to allow this thing. It is great enough because, you know, there was a point at which the US wouldn't even share 20% of a TOT.
I
And if
remember
they are
Austin
giving you
Lloyd was
80
here in the national capital. He
Yes.
met with the defense minister Rajnath Singh. There were, delegation level talks that took place. And I categorically remember him saying that, now there is growing, a popularity in the fact that we want to share all of our technologies with somebody that Washington completely trusts.
Exactly. That is what. See, initially the issue has been is that we have this successful model of a relationship with two countries. One is we had with France, and we have with Russia. Russia, of course, has been our traditional weapon suppliers, and we have a very deepened strategic relationship with the Russians, and they have been sharing their critical technology with us on a TOT basis. And there are several examples of it. The BrahMos missile. When it comes to the Sukhoi. In fact, our Sukhoi 30 is totally different from the breed of Sukhoi 30 aircraft that is there around the world, and even what the Russians use, because it is the only Russian aircraft that has been integrated with Western avionics, our own weapon systems, as well as Western weapon systems. So it is a very unique aircraft in its own league. This is the capacity that we have when we have an independent foreign policy. We don't have to rely on the strictures that are there that exist from these countries, because they trust us to use it for only our purpose. So we have given that confidence when it comes to Russia, and that's why Russia tends to share that kind of critical technology. The US has been very, very careful about it, because the US has had experiences of its critical technology falling into the wrong hands. For example, when Iran, the F-14, which was one of the top-end aircraft during the 1970s and early 80s, was with the Iranian Air Force. And after the theological rivalry that happened, and then the theocracy came in Iran and was ruling, and the Shah was ousted, a lot of critical US technology had fallen into a regime that was hostile to the US. So the US has been very careful when it comes to the kind of technology that is being transferred. There is always some kind of a what I would call a leash on it. And this also has that kind of a leash, because we will be talking about every engine that is manufactured by us over here. A GE engine that would be manufactured by us would require permission from the parent company, which is to keep a stock of how many engines that we are doing. And probably we can collaborate also to improve the functionality of that engine. But what I'm trying to say is that when it comes to engine technology, we are not in talks with US alone. We are also in talks with France for, again, developing a jet engine. So we are keeping our options always open. But despite all that, it seems that the US still trusts us, and probably these deals that are coming the way is probably the first time that the US is interested to go and share critical technology. And there is a reason for it. There's a reason for it. They want India to develop its defense capacities, its technology, to ensure that we have enough. When it comes to the issue about China, China is the elephant in the room. We have to accept that fact that China, though we say that our alliance is aimed at no one, it is not aimed at anyone as such. But the US would want a strong point when it comes to China, because if you look at the arch with China, the two ends of the arch are strong. That is to say, you have South Korea and Japan, and then you have India on the southern hemisphere. So this is the arch. So the ends of the arch, as the US strategy would say, are strong, but the rest of them are not capable to have that kind of a defense capacity, because of which I think we are looking at a situation where probably they want to strengthen the arch to become the spare parts supplier, weapon supplier to the other countries that fall into a probable arch, which we now in fact think calling it as a quad.
The Times of India has put out, proper pictures. It says it's a drone deal, but plenty needs doing before Desi unmanned aerial vehicles take wing. India buying US-made Predators, considered the world's best combat drone. That's the good news. The not so good news is the slow progress in making top-class Desi drones. I mean, if one even takes a look at the picture, you've got this big size of the Predator, a small size of the Israeli-made Harop, And then you've got, the Indian-made Ghatak, which is made by the Defense Research and Development Organization. The size is not that good. It has made some flight tests, but are we really that slow on that end?
See,
Making
we
our
are
own
because
drones?
we are trying to have our own system. We have the Rustam, which is supposed to be Rustam, as it called. We are testing that. It is considered to be one of our key end technologies developed by DRDO on the lines of an unmanned aerial vehicle that could have the potential of being armed as well as used for surveillance. So that is something that is also there, and it is clearly important. But let me in fact take up with regards to this, what they are actually trying to say. The question over here is, what is this meet going to be all about? Well, Jake Sullivan has in fact put out that the NSA of the United States and security advisor in the Hindustan Times has quoted him. Jake Sullivan has said that while both countries will also seek to develop a common understanding about China's actions and as best as possible attempt to coordinate and align actions around it, Sullivan said that the bilateral relationship is neither a marriage of convenience nor a geopolitical bargain, but a relationship founded on goodwill between people, private sectors, academia, governments on both sides. So he's saying that it is not from the prism of China alone, or not, as he calls it, a geopolitical relevance. It's not only with regard to China. It is not only with regard to there is an issue about academics. There's an issue about research material that is being shared. All that is there, and of course, this is the article they have put it out, and they're saying trip to herald deeper ties go beyond individual deals. So it's no longer about a buyer
Very nice
seller.
picture also there.
Yes, about
on the newspaper.
It's about how the
those are exactly the placards that I was talking about, the pictures with the two top global leaders. America loves Modi, Modi loves America. Joe Biden and Narendra Modi, the two top global phenomenon that we need right now. I mean, that's the kind of vibe that's already been set in place. People have been thronging the streets. There are proper, marches in support and celebration of the Prime Minister's visit to the United States.
Well, it is a big, celebration that has been carried out by the Indian diaspora in the United States, because they think this could be a paradigm shift when it comes to India's relationship with the United States, and therefore this could be the reason why we are looking at some of these huge deals coming in. Now, this relationship is not born out of from the last 5 years alone. There has been a sustained attempt on the part of several diplomats from both the sides to break the kind of Cold War, what I would call as a Cold War mentality that stopped the relationship from going further. We must understand that in 1971, the US did send in their aircraft carrier into the Bay of Bengal, and we had a 20-year friendship with the USSR then, which was also the superpower that sent its nuclear submarine to counter this the USS the aircraft in the aircraft carrier in the Bay of Bengal, and that has been one of the points of mistrust that has creeped into South Bloc, as well as when it comes to the defense planners of this country, because they never thought of US actually sending something during that period. But of course, a lot of water has flown under the bridge. The relationship between India and the United States have become stronger. The Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore, and but that Cold War mistrust seems to be still lingering on in certain sections of both our diplomatic cadres as well as when it comes to the US. But there has been a sustained effort to ensure that there are good relationships with the United States, but not at the cost of our independent foreign policy. So though we might say that the United States is deepening, we would put down our foot when it's required to say that what is right is right.
Also at the same time, the China-US report are, their reporting progress themselves. We remember Blinken met with, his Chinese counterpart as well recently to allay any fears of, tensions at that particular end, even as we know that Taiwan is still a touchy topic between the United States and the Great Republic of China. Prime Minister's visit outside, and there are some burning issues back at home as well. Many people from different political quarters are saying, why does the Prime Minister have to embark on this visit when he's got pressing issues back at home? And on that very end as well, Business as Usual by Unni. There's a cartoon that's been put out. I'll just quickly show you that cartoon. It shows what I think is a figure of, I don't know, the Home Minister. I could be wrong as well. And the dialogue says, cheer up, Global West will make more news than the local East. And there's the Manipur's sign over there as well. If the camera person could just, quickly zoom in on this little cartoon over here, right here. It says, there you have it, there you have it. So, I mean, that's the, cheer up, Global West will make more news than the local East. And you also have Manipur's, board over there as well. So, don't you think this is going to maybe take a hit ahead of 2024? I mean, why not look at this under the political lens as well?
If you're trying to say that there are pressing concerns at home, of course, every country has its pressing concerns, but this is also part of your country's outreach. You cannot see everything under isolation, and those words are very loaded, like Global West, then Global makes more headlines than Global East. Local East. So it is loaded. Of course, we have our problems. It's not that we can hide away from our problems, but there are times when which we can't compare certain things like apples and oranges together. And this is an apple-orange kind of a situation. See,
these defense deals are equally important.
Kabir, I'm a person who sees the government critically. So I call the government a spade when it does, a spade when the government does something like that, as a spade, okay? But here, this is quite unfair, because we are talking about, a relationship that probably is going to go on the next level. The kind of relationship that we had envisaged that what we should have. And this has a historical context to it also. And what we are looking at is that from the time of Nehru and Kennedy, this relationship had been fraught. Though there have been attempts to be, carried on by these two democracies to come together, it has been fraught with a lot of issues. We are looking at an economic dimension, we are looking at a defense dimension, we are looking at a geopolitical dimension when it comes to this relationship.
Well, US is India's largest trading partner, Varghese, at $191 billion. Indian and American firms have invested $40 billion each in each other's countries. Indian investments is present in across all the 50 United States states. At 4.9 million, Indians are the second largest immigrant group in the United States. At least 2 lakh Indians study in American universities. The US and India are now engaging in more military exercises with each other than with any other country. The United States, India is also going to buy more than $20 billion of defense supplies from the United States. India is also going to ink that $3 billion drone deal, the Predator drone deal, and ties now extend to defense cooperation and transfer of jet engine technology as well. I never knew, I only learned recently that under this new framework of defense cooperation, both the armies can use each other's bases for, supplies, replenishment.
Yeah, there's a logistical agreement.
Take rest as well.
There's a logistical agreement that we have with the United States military, and we have similar kind of
agreements. And in Midnapur, some, I believe some F-16s, United States fighter jets also took off. There were proper exercises that took place as well, apart from the quads and our naval exercises.
Yes, there is a lot of these exercises that take place between the militaries of both the countries, and these exercises are also one of the reasons why the relationship has become very closer. We have the same kind of again, we have that thing that we will not put our eggs all in the same basket, and therefore we have similar kind of military exercises even with China, even with France, even with Russia, and even with the UK. So we keep highlighting on all these factors, and therefore it is pertinent to understand that when it comes to the issue about how multidimensional our relationship is going to be, the issue has always been about how to define that multidimensional relationship without affecting our independent foreign policy. And this is the reason why I would say that, all of us tend to make sure that when it comes to certain important global events, we in fact voice our foreign policy in the proper manner. Do you know that one of the biggest admirers of our foreign policy is our arch enemy? Pakistan. Why Pakistan admires our foreign policy is this, that during Ukraine war, when there were sanctions that were put forward, okay, when there were sanctions that were put forward, we were in fact looking at how Imran Khan came and said, look at how India has bought oil from Russia. Russia is in war with Ukraine. Though to the entire world, the US has been pressurizing not to buy Russian oil, India has been able to buy. I tried doing it. I was not able to do it.
I remember him saying that. He said that India did not get cornered into a situation. They were brave
Exactly.
in their own
and that
stand.
is because of our independent foreign policy. So when we talk about deepening these ties, there will be a section, as I told you, the legacy of USSR is still there. There will be a section of people saying that we are getting too cozy to a crony capitalist country. You're going to listen to all that because of that legacy factor. But to all those people who would actually think about that, I would tell them that your friend, the Chinese, got all the investment and all the business from the crony capitalists. So when it comes to trade, I don't think so you should be looking at ideology in this matter. You should be probably looking at practical sense. There's a lot of reasons. We've got one of the largest population of engineers. All right, and the United States wants to exploit that because they don't have that kind of high-end number of engineers whom they can employ.
What about doctors?
Doctors, healthcare is. But as of now, most of the US companies are looking at high-end technology trade. You're looking at several kinds of businesses that involve high-end. You're looking at AI. You're looking at robotics. This requires the kind of engineering skill that they require to have in large numbers, which they are unable to find. And that is something we need to leverage.
4.9 million Indians, the second largest immigrant group in the United States. No wonder there are already marches that are being carried out ahead of the Prime Minister's welcome in the United States. He is emplaned for New York this very morning, and he's got a packed schedule. Those are the particular tweets that he tweeted ahead of his embarking on his journey. June 20th, Prime Minister arrives in New York, meets with thought leaders and the civil society. On the 21st of June, he leads the Yoga Day celebrations at the United Nations, goes to Washington, D.C., meets President Joe Biden on the 21st of June. The 22nd of June, White House reception. There's a meet and address to the United States' Congress, and it's going to be followed by a proper state dinner. On the 23rd of June, meetings with CEOs, lunch hosted by Vice President Kamala Harris, Secretary of State Antony Blinken. So it is going to be a power-packed
3 days
official state visit for the Prime Minister as he leaves for United States today. Focus on meetings with Biden, closer ties in defense, the drone deal, the jet engine deal. Well, a lot is on the cards, ladies and gentlemen.